Hello and welcome. I'm your host, author Ryan M. Oliver, and this is the Mighty Books Podcast. This episode's featured author is Mary McMichael. Mary is an author, professional keynote speaker, life coach, nurse, and entrepreneur. Realizing she had learned many valuable lessons in her life, she wrote Your Life Shoes, filling it with raw and truthful stories of her personal struggles, experiences, successes, and failures. Today, Mary lives in Fort Worth, Texas with her soulmate husband, Chuck, and their doggies. She is a biker chick who also enjoys shopping for shoes, creating arts and craft projects, gardening, weightlifting, watching baseball, listening to all kinds of music, traveling, and spending time with friends and family. She will always go above and beyond to help a friend, family, stranger, or dog. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, we have Mary McMichael. Mary, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. It is awesome. So we're here to talk about your book. Can you tell us the title of your book, please?
My book is called Your Life Shoes, A Pathway to Living a Badass Life.
Any title with the word badass in there is definitely something I want to get onto.
Yeah, there's a little story about that badass part because when I was trying to come up with the tagline, I couldn't think of anything besides badass. And then was talking to a friend and she was like, if you put badass in there, that might take away from some of your readers. I said, if they can't handle badass in my title, then they're not going to like my book anyway. So
there you go. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, it kind of weeds out the ones that are uninterested, who can't handle it. I like it. So what is your book about then?
My book is about my life lessons, and some of them, well, I'm 60. I just turned 60, so I have a few life lessons under my buckle.
Sure.
And I use those life lessons. Basically, what I did was I took my love for shoes and combined it with, how you have shoes that look good and they hurt your feet, and you have people that look good and hurt your heart. So I kind of correlated those two things together, right, and came up with this book and my life lessons. And at the end of each chapter, I basically take whatever the subject is for that chapter, and I have some exercises in the end. So at the end of each chapter, so you as the reader can take whatever, if you're dealing with the same circumstances that I was, how I got through it, how you might help get you through it too.
Right.
So.
Awesome. So what inspired you to finally go, I'm going to write down all my life lessons into a book that might help people?
Well, believe me when I say I did not plan on writing a book, and it wasn't a lifelong goal that I would write a book. I probably quite the opposite, like who would read my book kind of deal. But I did tell you I was 60, so I have some experience under my belt in my short life so far. And but as an occupational health nurse, which is my primary job, which is kind of like a school nurse for a company, I have the opportunity. You have your work family and you have your home family, and in some cases you spend just as much time, if not more, at your work family than you do. So as a nurse, I've been able to build relationships with our employees, and my door has a tendency to be a revolving door where people are coming in and they're venting or complaining or struggling and want some advice. So I tell them a story, something that happened to me, and they'd come back and inevitably, and they'd be like, oh my God, that story saved my life, or that helped me fix my problem, or whatever. You should write a book. And in 2016, it started becoming more prevalent. People saying, you should write a book. You should write a book. And I'm like, yeah, who'd read my book? But finally, you get to the point where you're like, okay, God, I hear you. Maybe I should write a book. And so I sent an email out to all my closest friends, and I said, look, I have this idea about writing a book and correlating shoes with people. And, what do y'all think? And they were like, yes, 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 you should do it. So then it was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, where do I start? That was the most daunting part right there. As I'm sure with any author, it's like, okay, how do you, especially your first book,
yeah,
where do you start? And a friend of mine, Autumn Shields, she wrote Live Your Life Alive. she had just published her book. And so I reached out to her and I said, hey, I got this idea about a book taking shoes and people and my experiences, my life lessons, and, but I don't know where to start. And she was like, oh, you need to hook up with Patrick Snow. Here's his number.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I called Patrick, and, he's so outgoing. I was like, yeah, you should do this. But, if you're going to do this, you need to commit to this book for the rest of your life. You'll be marketing this book.
Yep.
If you're going to do that, yeah, I can help you do that. So then it was just a matter of, still, where do I start? Because, I started thinking about different stories that I wanted to put in this book. So I'm a very visual person. So what I found that helped me is I got into an Excel spreadsheet, and I put the different stories that I wanted to tell in there. And then I cut it into little strips of paper and I spread it all out on my table. And then I started grouping them according to subject, like must love dogs and believing in the unknown and live your life, live your religion, and believing in the unknown, which has to do with ghosts and God and, all this kind of stuff. And then I just started picking up one of those strips at a time and writing my book.
Nice,
That's
nice.
where I started, and that's what worked for me. And the main thing with writing this book was I didn't want it to be consuming my life outside of work, because I do have a full-time job, and believe me, it's can be 24/7 sometimes. So I told Patrick, I'm going to give myself a year, possibly two. I'll get to it. Well, I did it in a year and a half. So I started in 2018, and by 2019, by the fall of 2019, I got my first book.
Hot
I got my
diggity.
proof. So
Nice.
it was actually pretty fast, because he told me it took him 5 years, I think, to do his first book.
Yes, 5 years, $20,000, I believe, is what he was telling me. So good long time. I like how you broke it down like that. Especially for a book like yours, it's nonfiction. You take it because usually when I'm a fiction, like I'm a fiction author, so I write it very linearly. Here's how the story characters are going to go about it. Boom. All right, that's how we're going to go. For yours, you have life stories that could be broken up into various, categories of lessons through life. So breaking it up, literally cutting it up into strips and taking that one and focusing on that. I kind of like that methodology you took there. So why shoes?
Well, like I was telling you, I have a lot of shoes. I love shoes. And I have shoes that are comfortable, like my fuzzy slippers or some of my broken tennis shoes. And then I have shoes that look really good, but oh my God, they hurt my feet.
Yeah.
And people are like that. You have your people that you're really comfortable with and they just are a good fit. You have people that, look good, but they hurt your heart. And then, everybody, I just felt like I could put people in a shoe category. you know?
Yeah.
And so basically what I did with that is, and this is where Tyler helped me, is we ran that theme all the way through the book. So each chapter starts with a shoe. I describe a shoe, like chapter 4 is must love dogs. It's a fuzzy slipper, and I describe what a fuzzy slipper is. The chapter about my ex-husband is a stiletto heel. Well, that I don't really have to explain that, but it looks good and hurts your feet. So, I talk about that. And believing in the unknown is a loafer. If you ever wore a loafer, you slide it on and you hope it stays on your feet, kind of deal. So that's where I kind of put it all together.
Was there a moment where you're like, one day you just go shoes and people, and you start kind of just thinking about their correlation, or just something? What made that metaphor stick for you?
I think where it came from is when I was just trying to, before I even really started on writing the book, I was like, what would I call my book? And it's about my life lessons. So life, and then shoes. And then it kind of came to me. And then I was
Sure.
like, and then I was asking my friends and my husband, what do you think about this idea? And they're like, that's fabulous. So
It
it
just kind
just
of came
kind
in.
of was meant to be, I think.
Yeah, kind of fell into place quite nicely.
Yes,
I
for sure.
like it. You said there's exercises inside your book. Is it for each chapter?
Each chapter has
Okay.
an exercise, like the first chapter, which basically is talking about what we were just talking about, how shoes we have people in our lives that hurt our hearts and then or make our hearts full, and then we have shoes that hurt our feet or make our feet comfortable, and I talk about that in the first chapter. And so then at the end of the chapter I talk about, look at your life and pick your shoes and who falls in your life, who falls under those category of shoes,
Right.
you
Right.
know. But then, when it goes further in about like the death of my father and my brother, my best friend, it was talking about grief and how to deal with grief, how I dealt with grief, and this sort of thing. So yeah, each chapter has an exercise.
Okay, that's good.
And even maybe not even an exercise, but a suggestion. Like our family camped. My brothers were all Eagle Scouts. My dad was a scout leader. So, I grew up kind of a tomboy, not kind of, I am a tomboy still. But we spent a lot of time outdoors. And this is before cell phones too. So, I think kids are missing it. My grandkids, I get them outside and get them into the garden and, because the outdoors was meaningful. So I challenge people to go outdoors or eat a food that they would never eat. Like some people can't stand the thought of eating raw fish. Sushi, well, it's my favorite, but for the longest time I didn't want to eat raw fish. No way, Jose. And then my friend Karen said, oh, you got to try this. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And then I was hooked. I was like, oh my God, this is fabulous.
I want to get some sushi right now. Just you saying it, I'm now hungry for sushi. It took me forever to actually get some, and then finally, I wasn't avoiding it, but we went to a restaurant for someone's birthday, and I'm like, oh, I'll try this. Everything was amazing. Everything was amazing. Like, where have I been? Where has it been in my whole life? Anyway,
and we're not talking about the cream cheese kind either. We're talking about the kind with, real fish,
legitimate
and
fish,
crab and eel sauce and all that.
All of it.
Masago, everything.
I don't even know how to pronounce half the stuff, but I want all of it. I don't care what it is. I want all of it. I am to sushi what you are to shoes. I don't know. I don't think that's the truth, but food. Yeah, give me food. I'm happy. So, feedback. What feedback have you gotten from your book?
I'm very proud of the feedback that I've gotten on my book. For the most part, people tell me that they start reading it and they can't put it down. And I've been getting all 5. So that means a lot to me. And, just like I didn't set out to write a book, I didn't set out to be a bestseller, but I also know that it only takes one person to like my book to launch it off. That's why I've sent it to Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift and Kris Kardashian. And the post office was like, all these people, they bought your book. And I was like, well, not exactly,
Yes.
But yeah, I've sent that thing out. And so in the meantime, it's small accomplishments, just helping somebody get through something. When I get that email or that text message, like, oh my gosh, that this meant so much to me. Thank you for writing this book, or thank you for sharing your story. And without, I lay it all out on the table. I was a little worried about my mom reading my book. Then again, she took it in and she was kind of hurt too, because she didn't realize that there was some dark spots in my life where I didn't ask for help. And, as an adult, you try to do whatever you can do before you go to mom and dad and say, hey, I need to move home, or I need some money, or whatever.
Right.
I'm that generation where like, that was the last resort. But yeah, I'm very proud of the fact that it's been able to help people and that they enjoyed it.
Yeah. As you should be. It's writing a book is a huge accomplishment in of itself. And then if it's more so helping others to, find the light out of the dark or through a tricky situation, that just that's the topping on the cake right there. So are there going to be more books in the future, or are you going to be like, adding to this one in like separate revisions?
It's funny you should say that.
Oh, is it?
Because I was thinking about my second edition, because I have some stories I want to add to the first edition.
There's
you know how that goes.
I do.
Like my first experience with gummy THC, it was not a good one, and it involved calling an ambulance. So yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was not cool. Not cool at all.
Yeah, you're gonna have more and more stories pop up, and I'm sure like your husband probably come up with some, or family, you start picking the brain of family, and you're like,
Yeah.
wait, I did that, because you can't remember everything.
Right. I probably do a volume two. I'll do a second edition and maybe a volume two. But my other book that I've started is a fiction, and it's called Rainy Days. And it's
Cool.
basically, my husband and I are big dog people, rescue dogs. And like I even have like my dog Wiley is on the back cover of my book because he was so meaningful to my life. When I left my ex-husband in 2009 after 20 years of marriage, and Wiley was with me for 10 years, and I learned a lot about myself in that time. And there were times that were very dark where I thought, I don't want to live anymore. And then
Yeah.
I looked at Wiley and I was like, but if I die, then who's going to take care of my dog? And
Yeah.
I managed to get my act together, but we can all slip in that little darkness, and sometimes it doesn't take much. And then
Right.
when you get out of the darkness and you look back, you're like, that was stupid. What was I thinking? That wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Well, you're and I read a little bit of I think that chapter there, and it's that little proponent of, you have this negativity. When you think of negative thoughts all the time, all you can see is negative. You look through
Negative
that
attracts
filter.
negative, and
It
it,
does.
it involves your body, it involves your experiences.
Hmm.
Negative attracts negative. And when I switched that to that positive attracts positive, then my life changed.
Yeah.
It was that book, Rhonda Byrne's The Promise or The Power,
Hmm.
that changed my life. And when I was in that low spot and a friend suggested I read that book, I was like, yeah, whatever.
Hmm.
And every time I went into the bookstore, there it was. And so finally I was like, okay, God, I hear you. And I grabbed the book, and then I kind of half-ass was reading the book, but I wasn't grasping what it was really trying to tell me. I thought, this is bullshit. What am I doing? This is stupid.
Right.
And then when I ended up having to go to the IRS office, well, you know how long you have to sit in there. So I thought I might as well bring this book with me and read it. And I finally started to read it. And if you read that chapter, you'll know why sunflowers are so important to me.
I
But
I actually read that chapter. I was actually just about to ask you about sunflowers if you want to go into it. Uh,
yeah, reading that book, in the book, they were talking about picturing a calla lily and picturing it and smelling it like it was in your hand, like just like in your life, you picture that you have this success and you've done this, and that you've already accomplished it. So you're thinking about that flower. And then when they finally, after a couple hours, called my number, I got up, and when I was reading that part of the chapter, I started, well, sunflowers are my favorite. So I pictured a sunflower and did all this kind of stuff. And then finally, they called my number, and I went to the little cubicle, slid the door open, and then I just stood there and cried. And the lady was like, no, 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 it'll be fine. We'll fix all your taxes. No, no worries. I'm like, no, no, that's not it. Hold on a minute, And she was like, no, really. And I was like, no, just a second. Let me pull myself together. And then she was like, what's wrong? And I said, it was sunflowers everywhere in her little cubicle. She had her little cubicle decorated in sunflowers. And from that moment on, I was a believer. And I went home and finished that book, and my life just started to change. And
yeah.
I got offered this job up here in Fort Worth, and
Nice.
just one good thing after another, and met my husband now. And it was that moment that changed everything.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've noticed negativity is very cancerous, and then positivity is just the complete opposite. You can even if bad things are happening to you, you can see the silver lining. It tends to, I don't know, it's just easier on you, not just mentally, but even physically, you're feeling better. Others around you they're more attracted to that mindset. I've had jobs where it's scut work. It's really, very dirty, gross work. But when you come in there and you're like, all right, who's ready to work today? Let's get some stuff done. Let's make some jokes of each other. Let's have a good time. It goes a lot better. People see you and go, okay, he's a good person to have around. And I feel like that's a part of my thing too, with positivity. That's gotten me into a lot of opportunities. Other people's who are just kind of negative Nellies, they kind of, I don't know, either miss or weren't offered. I don't know, but that positive mindset is, to me, very powerful, very
It
powerful.
is powerful, and it does spread to those around you. And
It
I
does.
find when I'm in those little dark spots where I'm starting to feel negative and I hear myself complaining and all this kind of stuff, I try to go outside of myself and do something for somebody else.
There you go. There you
And
go.
then that makes me feel better. Like I have a little side hustle. I started to make money, and then I was like, no, I'm doing this just because it makes me feel good. So when my dog Wiley died, which devastated me, and if you're a dog person, you know that relationship with
Oh
the
yeah.
animals can be so strong, and in some cases, when you lose an animal, it can be harder than losing your human person.
Yep.
So I couldn't wait to get his ashes back. And then I'm very artsy craftsy. So I was like, what can I make? I started looking at different things that people were doing with ashes. And then I thought, well, I can do that myself. So I made a ring,
Oh, cool.
and I put Wiley in there. And now
Mm.
I've got this ring that has the whole pack in there. So it's called Wiley's Gift. And so
Nice.
I just randomly, when I'm going through Facebook or whatever, and I see somebody's lost somebody or lost a pet, I reach out to them and say, hey, send me a pinch of ash or fur and pick up to 3 colors and I got you. And then
Nice.
that's what I do. And I love the creative part of it, but I love the meaning behind it because I know how much that meant to me when I did it for myself.
Yeah.
So now I have people that they've mixed their husband and all their dogs in one ring or whatever, what we'll do whatever. So
Yeah.
um yeah, so I find that helping others really helps me.
Absolutely. I have a feeling I know the answer to this one, but what is the best money you've ever spent as a writer?
Patrick Snow.
I had the feeling that was the case.
That's a
Hiring him.
no-brainer.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if I didn't have someone to guide me through that process, because when I was thinking about, okay, how can I do this before I even reached out to my friend Autumn, I was like, this is so daunting. I mean, and all the scammers and who do you trust? And he had it all. And the people that work with him on this,
They're top line.
oh, they are awesome.
I can't agree with you more. I went the same route you did. Had a friend of mine who worked with books. She has a network with Mary West from up here in Bremerton. I don't know if you've ever
Mary, I'm familiar with Mary.
okay, awesome. Because Patrick and her work together.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got me connected to Patrick and boom, we were setting sail at that point. And it was a no-brainer, like you said. After he let everything out, and there's so many scammers. When I started researching finally, I'm like, I don't know if I can trust these people. I
Right.
have no idea. The
Take
fact
your
that it
money
came,
and run.
yeah, the fact that it came from a person I trusted who trusted this person to trust this person. Look Patrick up. He's got years. He's got a legacy that he's created for himself. It's like,
Yes.
okay, and he's got his reputation that he, cares for as
And
much
he's
as all his
always
clients.
available. He's
He is.
always available.
I can message him right now, probably get a message from him in the next hour. I mean, he's a busy
Mm-hmm.
guy, but
Yep.
I can get it today. I will get a message back from him. So,
Yeah.
and he's always available, always. So I 100% agree. If you're out there and you want to write a book, find a publishing coach. Ideally, find Patrick Snow because I can't. At least Mary and I probably can't. Wouldn't have gotten these done
I
without.
wouldn't even be on your little show if it
Yeah,
wasn't for Patrick Snow.
yeah,
So I'm
I,
I'm
yeah,
very thankful that I met him, and I'm very thankful for all the people in my life because
yeah.
I'm one of those people that believe that nothing happens by accident. I think it's all part of a plan, and we don't just stumble into relationships. I think people are put in our life either briefly for something small or something huge, and
Right.
and that we're put in other people's lives for the same reason.
Yeah, I tend to agree that train of thought as well. I really do. Okay, so your cover. How much thought went into developing your cover?
Man, well, my cover went through about 7 transformations,
Oh
but
man.
still, they all had shoes. I had
Oh
all
yeah.
my shoes that went all the way across to the back of the book. And then Patrick and Autumn both were helping me kind of like, no, you need to do this. And like we talk about the badass, having the
Yeah.
word badass in there, which I'm thankful that I did it because, If you get to know me, then you'll know, oh yeah, that's perfect for Nurse Mary.
Right.
So, but those shoes on the front cover of my book are my shoes. I had a friend, Nita. She took the pictures for me. So those stilettos are mine, and yeah, they do hurt my feet. But I have worn them with a nice pair of jeans. But
Sure.
those are my motorcycle boots, my Gringos, and yeah. So those are probably the most expensive boots I've ever bought. But my husband talked me into it. If you like them, get them. You deserve them. So I was like, yeah, I do. So I'm going to put them on the cover of my book along with the sunflowers.
Yes. Yeah. I'd be very disappointed if you put something like, I don't know, a rock or, a tree or something when you're talking about shoes. Like that wouldn't make any sense. So no, it looks good. It's it's an attractive cover. You have to, it takes a lot of effort to do covers.
I Patrick had someone and I was like, no, I think I can do this myself, And so I pretty much did my cover. And I
Wow.
did the cover for my next book, The Rainy Days that I was telling you about. I did the cover first. And then I even did some covers for friends that were talking about writing a book. And I was like, here, if you write a book, here's your cover, and they're like, try to get them motivated, like, just look at this cover and you put the words inside of it, or I
Right.
can help you with your cover, whatever.
Right.
So, it's just another little arts and crafts project, if you will.
Right.
And it's really not rocket science. I mean, there's some math involved in it, but
Yeah. I don't have the patience or the creativity for that to do covers. I dime that out to somebody who is way out. Technology is not my favorite thing. Learning software, like it took me a while just to get all this down. I
yeah.
like doing this because it's a good, good communication, good learning some cool stuff. But when it comes to covers, I'm like, no, here's what I
You
want.
know your limits.
Oh yeah, I've learned my limits and do that, and then I can't beat my cover. So I work with a local Paulsbo group here. So and they're awesome. So they're fabulous. They've done both my covers. So at the end of the day, what are you hoping people will get out of your book?
Hope, and to know that we all, although we're all walking down separate paths, we are really all intermingled. And for the most part, we do experience the majority of our life lessons. I mean, we're learning the same lessons in most cases.
Yeah.
Some of them are a little different. All in all, we're all just people and we need to take care of each other.
Mhm.
We need to do a better job of that and be kind and not be so divisive.
And what better way than to experience that nicely holding a book and reading about someone else who experienced similar things. And it makes me feel better anytime like I'm not the only one going through this. And then no, I'm not that unique. There's other people who experience the same kind of stuff, which kind of, okay, I'm rowing this boat a little. It's a little easier now that I've got some other people in here experiencing it with me.
And not only that, but sometimes you read, well, like in my book, you'll be like, oh crap, I thought I had it bad. And look what she just went through, kind of deal. So, as
Yeah,
bad as what you're going through might be, it can always be worse.
that's something. That's actually what I wanted to say too. It fell out of my head for a second when we were talking about before, but self-reflection when something's going bad and anything's like getting frustrated about something, I was like, okay, why am I getting frustrated about this? This could be so much worse. You look at the whole life, the whole 360 on your life. I've got a job, family loves me, house, I've got hobbies, things to keep, I've got things going for me. This little thing in the grand scheme of things really doesn't matter. So let's just turn the heater down, calm the
Mhm.
water down. It's no longer boiling. We're cool. We're cool. And it's you have to have the ability to step back, but that takes experience. That takes time. It really
Wisdom,
does. Yeah, wisdom.
age, and
Yes.
beauty.
Yes. All of that combined.
If I
Oh,
knew what I know now back when I was 20, I wouldn't have a book.
maybe life would look a little different.
But without pain, there's no gain.
There's no growth.
You learn your best lessons when you're in pain.
Growth can be painful. Lessons, usually the ones that stick with you, are the most painful. It's kind of more of a less a funny story, but I used to work as an electrician with the shipyards out here, and brand new to electrical. Like I had not done a single thing of electrical in my life at this point. So I'm in my early mid 20s,
Mhm.
and I've got an apprentice. I'm an apprentice at this point. I've got someone who is diehard been an electrician since he could hold cables. He has been an electrician doing something with the trades. So he's teaching me how to strip cable back and attach the head to the
My
plug and
husband did that
everything.
stuff.
Yeah, it's great. I actually really enjoyed it. So learning how to, how much you have to pull back, what pieces, and these particular plugs had like 20 different pieces to put together. They're not very, they're kind of complex.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put it together. It took me a while, like a couple hours to do this. I
Oh,
should not have done this, but it takes me a while to learn that. I put it together. I step back. I'm like, I got this done. I feel good about this. And so this guy's name is Mike. Mike walked by behind me. He's, hey man, how you doing? Looks good. I like it. He's like, yeah. He goes, but you know what? It's missing something. I'm like, what? He pulls this thing off the side of me. It's this little grommet that goes to the very back. It's the first piece you have
oh
to put on the cable,
no.
and the other end is already made. You can't put it on. So he's like,
You get to take it apart.
sorry, buddy, take it back apart. Like, did you just notice this? No, I noticed that the first time you started. I was so mad. But he goes, will you ever forget this?
Mm-mm.
No, I won't. And I never did again. I went on to build hundreds of cables when that was always what went on first.
Yes.
Always. It hurt, but I learned it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, some people don't always learn and they still keep making the same mistakes.
They haven't grown yet. They need more pain, apparently.
Yes.
Hopefully not too much.
No.
So if we want to learn a little more about you and your book and everything, where can we get a copy?
My website is www.yourlifeshoes.com. And I also have the electronic copy, the digital copy. You can get that through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes and Noble, all those classic ebook places. Okay. And actually this year I started to record the audiobook version. And I got 3 chapters in and I was listening to it. I had a friend that has a studio and I was like, this is crap. I can't read this because I'm attached to it. So I get those first 3 chapters are really tough and, the tearjerker stuff. So I was like, now I know my limits and I can't do this. So I'm actually going to have to hire somebody, but I'm going to have the audiobook version up probably hopefully within the next year. So that's awesome. That's on my radar to do and among the other books. So yeah.
Wow. Big things are coming. I can feel it.
Thank you.
It. You're welcome. Well, Mary, this has been awesome. I'm so glad you took some time out of your busy schedule and we got to chat. So really, I appreciate you coming on here.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you. So I wish you the very best too.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening in. Go get a copy of Your Life Shoes by Mary McMichael. It could potentially change your life.
Change your life.
Yes. All right, guys. Have an excellent day and keep reading. Are you an author? Do you know someone who is? If so, then message me, Ryan Oliver, at ryanmoliver.com to set up a free appointment to discuss being showcased on the Mighty Books podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Mighty Books YouTube channel and share the link to this and more episodes with your friends and family. Thanks for listening. So long for now. Stay mighty and keep reading.